If you're using a camera, you're probably taking photos of wildlife, landscapes, aviation, surf, or portraits. If you find yourself watching, tracking your subject, and waiting for the best shot, then welcome. You're a spotter like the rest of us, and you're in the right place. I'm Oscar Socarras, and this is the Spotters Podcast. Mark, welcome. Evan, thanks for joining. All right, let's see. Neil, welcome. Let me accept this. All right, Matt, how you doing?
How's it going, Oscar?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining tonight's episode of the Spotters Podcast.
I'm glad to be here.
So, just for everyone, this is episode 11 of the Spotters Podcast. My guest tonight is Matt Calise. Is that correct?
Yep, Calise.
Calise. All right, awesome. Just wanted to give a few shout-outs before we start. The podcast is available now on Spotify. Most of my listeners are from the U.S. Thank you. About 86% of you guys. I got 7% listening from Japan, 3% from Australia, Germany, Portugal, and Puerto Rico. We got 1%. They're all tied up. So we'll give a report again next month to see who's in the lead, and we'll report on that. And then also tonight, going on after tonight's show at 8 p.m., you could join Social Flight Live, and their guest is going to be Jimmy Graham, Miami local, pilot, football player, played for the Saints and University of Miami. He's going to talk about life, football, and being a pilot and flying. Matt, I think I lost you. I'm going to have to send you a request again. Yeah. Thanks, Evan. Just sent them. There you go. All right. Welcome back. All right, Matt. What's going on?
Well, just got done. Busy day of training down there in Miami. We're starting LATAM. Delta ramp is starting LATAM. So currently working on trying to get training on the 7.6, 7.8, and the triple. So it's fun times, and we're looking to add Virgin, I believe KLM, and more than likely Air France as well.
Very cool. And these are all going to be part of the Delta terminal, or that side?
Not a part of the Delta terminal, but the ground handling will be done by Delta.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
How long have you been working on the ramp there down in Miami?
Down in Miami, I've only been there about a month now. I started out in Palm Beach for almost 2.5 years, but as a contractor. So it was definitely a better move in terms of benefits, pay, and all that to go mainline.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. What's your favorite thing about working on the ramp so far?
Outside of being with the airplanes, probably the people you meet. I've met a lot of great crews. Lots of great people at the gates and ticket counters, and just the experience of it. So
awesome. How did you get started with interested in probably working at the ramp? What led you that way?
Well, it's funny. I always joked around as a kid. Excuse me, and I always joked around and said, "Oh, I'd do that for fun." And one thing led to another, and I put in an application, and I had a buddy of mine at the time working in Palm Beach, and he passed along my name, and I got a phone call. Not sure how or why, but I did, and the rest is history. But it was a lot of fun, especially in Palm Beach. But
no, that's cool. I saw in your bio there that you're also a commercial pilot?
I am, yeah. So commercial single right now. Have my check ride for the multi-engine coming up here soon. So hopefully commercial multi-engine rated pilot by the end of next week.
Awesome. Good luck on that.
Thank you.
Are you gonna be maybe taking a jump and maybe doing a professional pilot, or are you still doing it as a recreational?
No, the goal's always been to be a professional pilot. All this other stuff is just kind of building blocks to get there.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. There's a few places down south, down in Miami, that I'm looking at trying to go to or get in with, and we'll see what happens. If it works out, great. If not, we'll keep pressing on and find something else.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good experience and background getting the kind of behind the scenes how the operation works from the ground up, so to
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, and that's the great thing about the ramp is you learn so much about how one company operates, and right now we're learning how a totally different company operates, and it's interesting to see the differences. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that the passengers don't realize, so that makes it worth it.
Yeah, it looks like a few people were talking about how they flew Delta last time and they lost their bags or the bags got messed up. We're not
Well,
baggage handlers or the airline directly, so you
yeah,
got lost
well,
bags. You might want to go talk to your airline.
I can't speak for other stations, but I'll tell you, Miami, we try and handle them the best we can.
We had some questions in the channel, not many this week, but one of the questions was from Sam Yost. How was your flight training for Part 61 or 141, and any advice?
Oh man, flight training is tough in general. It's not for the faint-hearted. I did my private 141. I did the rest all 61. People tend to get caught up in the restricted ATP idea, and they want to go 141. They want to do it the fastest way they can, and in reality, you're going to spend a little bit more money. 141. If 500 hours is really that big of a deal to you, in reality, that's probably about 6-7 months. And not that it's a bad thing. But if your goal is the airlines and you want to try and get there as fast as possible, spend a little bit more to have that 500-hour reduction, go for it. I have friends that have gone to Embry-Riddle and ATP and all these different places, especially schools, and they just it gets dragged along, and they tend to spend a lot more money. When I made the jump to 61, it was just I feel like I learned so much more. There's a lot of things that I don't want to say they get skipped over, but in the 141 process, there's only X amount of hours you have to complete, X amount of things you have to do. So, for example, the commercial license, you need 190 hours for Part 141. For Part 61, you need 250. So in that 60-hour range, that's just true time building. So there's a lot of things that you'll go out and you'll time build, and you really sit there and you get that experience, and you do one thing or another, and you sit there and you go, that wasn't too smart, or that wasn't too bright. But you learn, hey, I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
Whereas you got these guys that are going to 141 schools, and they're just kind of being dragged through it, and they're just they don't get that true experience of time building and doing things that going out for that $100 hamburger and things like that.
So 141 is more expensive than the 61?
Yeah, so 141 you typically see in bigger schools like Embry-Riddle, Auburn, places like that. You're paying for the degree with it, right? So naturally, it's going to be a little bit more. I know for ATP, I believe the most current loan is like $120,000, and then by the time you pay all of it back with interest, it's significantly more.
Yeah.
Into my training, I've probably up to this point have put in a good probably 85,000.
Wow.
Obviously it's no small chunk of money. It's a lot, but it's definitely a little bit cheaper than going to a bigger school like that.
Gotcha. And for a few people, I know my wife joined in earlier, so she has no idea what we're talking about. Part 61 versus Part 141. These are flight training schools and like FAR parts. Each part has a different curriculum. They have a different um, ground school, pilot training hours, so on and so forth. So, a Part 61 is flight training for recreational pilots. Like Matt said, it's going to be a little bit more hours, but you're going to get more experience. You're going to get more landings, more takeoffs. You're not going to be rushed through it. You could take your time in doing it. And then Part 141 is flight training for professional pilots. They're going to rush you through. They have an FAA guided syllabus that you have to learn the particular whatever the syllabus is. I don't even have it in front of me here, like what an example would be. Can you provide an example of something that you said you went and did Part 141 first, right?
Yeah, so I did it for the private. There's not too much of a difference in private. When you get to instrument and commercial, that's where they start to kind of branch out. For example, with instrument training, if you were to do it 161, you need 50 hours of cross-country piloting command time, whereas if you do it Part 141, you don't need that. Schools have both 61 and they can have both 61 and 141.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I worked at a flight school here in West Palm. They're called Aviation. And I've been to, I don't know, probably 5 schools now, just in training and time building and things like that. AMRO is probably the best one I've experienced culture-wise and airplane-wise. But that's beside the point. But places like AMRO offer Part 61 flight training, and they have a 141 syllabus. The only difference is you don't get an hour restriction or an hour reduction unless you go through the partner school of Liberty University.
Okay. So, Mr. Hine, that should answer your question there for Palm Beach County. What flight school you recommend there? You said what? That was AMRO?
Yep, AAMRO.
Okay.
Yep.
Also, I'm not sponsored by AMRO, but if you want to sponsor me, you could go right ahead. Just kidding. I would like to get my pilot's license at one part of my life, at least sometime in the future. So we'll have to work on that. I'm looking at the differences, flight time requirements for Part 61. You're looking at 40 hours minimum for a private pilot and 250 hours for commercial. And Part 141, private pilot, is at 35 hours of ground training and 120 hours of flight training.
Yep, correct.
Then there's helicopter. Commercial pilot certificate is 30 hours of ground training and 115 of flight training. So
that's a lot. Yeah, and I used to see a lot of people convert their licenses from helicopter to fixed wing. So that was always interesting. But yeah, I would tell people getting into it, enjoy it. There's going to be days that are tough. If your goal has always been to do this, stick with it. It sucks at times. There's going to be times, especially during instrument, that you just sit there and you go, I don't know if I want to do this. And, you're mentally just exhausted. But you gotta find a way, keep grinding. And it all works out. Make sure to have fun. Don't sell yourself short. Would probably be my biggest thing.
Yeah.
And don't let an instructor dictate anything. Like, don't let them yell at you. Don't let them, obviously there has to be instruction and there has to be feedback, but if your instructor's yelling at you and constantly putting you down, find a different instructor.
Have you had experience with that? Have you left the school for whatever reason and joined another school? Have you any?
Yeah.
Have you had any? Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish that.
No, go ahead.
And in doing so, did he have any issues, like, depending on how many hours he had, just kind of like saying, "Hey, this is my logbook. This is how many hours. Can I just keep on?" Or do you had to start over?
Yeah, so there was twice. I ended up leaving two schools. Both of them were at the same airport. But the most recent one, it was actually when I started my flight training, or started my multi-engine flight training. And I was flying with the chief pilot at this flight school, and it was great. I mean, he was a great guy. We were getting along, we were learning it, and probably had about 4 hours. Well, he got busy, and rightfully so. He said, "Hey, go fly with this guy, who normally does the multi-engine training stuff." So I went with him, and it really started on the ground. He seemed like a cool guy. We ended up getting in the airplane, and we were doing a taxi checklist, and got to the run up, and I'm going through my flow, and out of the corner of my eye, I see him on his phone, and I do my thing, following the checklist with the finger, and he get all done, and he goes, "Oh, you missed this." I said, "I don't think I missed it." He said, "Yeah, you did." Okay, so I redid it, and that was fine. We took off, and we're in the maneuver. Well, we were actually on the climb out, and I bring the power back to 24, and I bring the power, or the manifold and the props, back to 24, as you do on typical cruise climbs. And he starts yelling at me. He's like, "Why aren't you at 25? You need to be at 25." And I said, "Well, this is how I was taught, whatever." No, that's wrong. And I like to go fast. And so he raised the power a little bit. And we're at 1,000 feet, and you level off when you take off, because you don't want to hit the Charlie going out of the landing there. So I level out, and he says to me, "Why are your cowl flaps open?" It didn't cross my mind at the time. I was just so stressed out. And he goes, he keeps asking me about it. I'm like, I really don't know. I was new in the airplane still. And he goes, "Well, if you read your cruise checklist, you would know that they have to be closed." And I thought about it, and I said to him, like, "We're at 1,000 feet. If I lose an engine right now, I'm dropping like a brick. And if my cowl flaps are closed, and I'm trying to restart the engine, the cowl flap has to be open for that."
Yeah.
So, that's one more thing I have to do. If I have an engine failure at 1,000 feet, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
It's one more thing, and it snowballs. And he didn't like that answer. And after that, I mean, I won't go into detail about every little thing, but
yeah,
it snowballed from there, and it wasn't great. So I ended up, I left there, and I actually tried to reschedule with the chief, and to no avail. So I ended up going to Alabama, where I did my private license, and for the most part got it done up there, and now I just have to take the check ride. So
okay. Well, sorry you had a bad experience. I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of bad instructors out there, and I see it as you're being kind of a little over precautious. You're trying to be safe in case you did have an engine out at 1,000 feet. It's one less step that you have to take is opening up the cowl flap again. So, I don't see it as a big deal. But once again, I've only rode as a passenger in a small aircraft, not really behind the stick too much. So, or behind the yoke. These Cessnas have yokes. Rocket Man, thanks for joining, Julius. I see you, Ryan. I saw you join. Ryan Clackle, Ryan Reese. Thanks for joining. So what's your next thing? You got to do multi-engine in a few, guess in a few weeks, or to do a check ride for that. Do you have to do any, what's your procedure before getting into multi-engine? After your, in terms of how many more hours, do you have to have a set amount of hours in single before you could get to multi-engine check ride, or are you just training right now on multi-engines?
No, right now I'm just training on multi-engines. Once you get to that point of doing your fundamental multi-engine training. The single-engine hours don't really matter. In fact, for the check ride, it's just trainer proficiency. There is no set number of hours you need in the multi-engine airplane like there is for your private instrument commercial.
Okay.
And then after that, the goal is going to be try and get on with a 135 or a 91 operator and either try and build the multi-time that way, or if not, hey, it is what it is. We'll go get the instructor license and we'll instruct for however many hours until I become a little bit more marketable in the eyes of a insurance company that kind of dictates everything right now. So.
Yeah. So you're not a CFI right now, then?
No, currently not.
Damn, man. I was looking for a CFI actually today.
Yeah, unfortunately not. So that will be a few more months probably.
Yeah. Looks like we got a question here. Matt Vogel. What's your favorite airplane, Matt?
Oh, that's tough. It's a mix of two. The 7.5, of course, because such an overpowered airplane. It's a good airplane, but the 7.1 and the MD-80.
Awesome.
Both of those. The DC-9 family in general is just a beast of an airplane, and I grew up flying on them. They're actually what made me want to be a pilot, so I can't really say anything negative about the good old Mad Dog. Yeah. I'm sure Matt might have something else to say about that. But
yeah, there was actually I don't know if it was an MD-80 or MD-88 at Miami Executive, where I was at, where I work at, and it was kind of parked there for almost a year, and then all of a sudden they moved it to a hangar. I guess they did some engine overhaul on it, and a week later it was gone. And I was like, this thing has been here forever. I didn't even know that it was departing. So
yeah,
but
they yeah, I got to tell you, those things are the 87 for sure is definitely a rare one. But let's see, Ryan said tri-jets for life. I agree with that. TriStar too. TriStar was a good airplane. Unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to fly on it. So,
yeah.
But from what I hear, that and the 727 were just planes to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I don't think Amerijet flies the 727s anymore. I think they're all gone. But I remember seeing them out of Miami, and the L-1011. I don't know if I flew on an L-1011 to Amsterdam back in like 2000. What was that? 2004, I think.
Okay. Sure.
But it was Martinair. And it was either a L-1011 or a DC-10, but I think it was an L-1011.
I think they ran the MD-11s there for a while. I might be. I'm not sure. It's been a long time. Yeah. I think it was an MD-11 though. At one point. Yeah, Ryan was just saying there's still an L-1011 there. I think that's the Stargazer he's talking about. NASA does work with that. Not sure to what extent, but I know they have a hand in it, and I think that's the last airworthy one. There's that one over in Kansas City, I believe it is, that's open for tours and whatnot. But it'd be cool to get on a L-1011 and maybe with the Stargazer guys and maybe go fly a little bit.
Yeah, I just looked that up. It is the Stargazer, actually Northrop Grumman livery.
Yeah, that's what
used in for orbital sciences right now. So pretty sweet. Mothership for Pegasus.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't know.
I think that had come to our airspace. Yeah, that did come into our airspace for a little bit. I worked for 17 years out of Miami Air Traffic Control Center, or Miami ARTC.
Sure.
So we have some airspace that we do for the rocket launches and space launches and whatnot. And I think Stargazer was one of the test flights that were in that airspace at one point. I can't talk because I can't be sharing too much information, but that is definitely it's out there already. Stargazer is public knowledge. So Matt also asked, what's your thoughts on Delta utensils?
Oh man, I don't know. I haven't had a. I have seen the wood ones recently. I don't whatever he's talking about. I've seen those. I don't know how I feel about it. I think there needs to be some type of meet in the middle, and I just say go back to regular utensils, nice metal utensils with the Delta engraving on it.
Oh, that's dangerous, though.
Well, it's all right. Everything's a little dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could get cut by a plastic knife, so you know.
Yeah, I mean, they break a can, and you cut yourself with the can. So
Yeah, or it'd just be like medieval times. You get food if you don't get
yeah,
utensils.
yeah, you just eat with your hands.
Oh my god. Um, so let's see. What I had looked at your profile earlier this week. I saw that you're also. It says you're a contract photographer with um, a mag. So
Yeah, Airways.
Airways. Yeah.
Yeah, so I somehow got into that. I don't even know how I got into it, but here we are. No, I just take some photos and I share it with them, and they end up in magazines and over their internet page, and it works out. I just do it for fun at this rate, but my work has gotten out there just a little bit, and I've gotten shots posted with Delta and things like that. Actually, Tom and Eric Lake, they were father-son duo that retired not too long ago, and Eric messaged me about it, and we ended up going out there and taking photos for him, and it was a whole big thing, and it ended up on Delta's page, and it ended up all over the news, and so that was really cool to see. I've run into guys that are leaving the airport. They were flying in on a Learjet or Gulfstream, whatever, and drive by and go, "Oh, were you here for this tail number?" And sure enough, I was. So get their contact information and just exchange the photos, and
That's cool. That's a fun thing to do for pilots.
Yeah, and it's like I tell people, everyone's day is going to come that you're going to retire, and put it all up for good.
Yeah.
I know when I get to that point, I'd want someone to sit there and go, "Hey, we'll do it for you, and we'll get these good shots," and
definitely
pay it back a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I like doing that. I mean, I shoot mostly military aviation.
Sure.
So I'll go down to Homestead. I'll go to Navy Key West. I mean, I've been to MacDill. I've been to Patrick Air Force Base. So I catch all these, aircraft coming in and out. So I like to do the same that you're doing. Kind of give back to the military a little bit. Give back to the military pilots.
Sure.
Some of the crews. You'll see. Miami Beach Air Show. You'll have the I think it's the 920th. Gosh, yeah, 920th Rescue Wing from Patrick Air Force Base. They'll come down in their MH-60s, and you have the guys like hanging out of the window. You get their picture, and then you like send it to the squadron, and they're like, "Oh, thanks for the pictures." I'll share that with the crews, and I think they get a good kick out of it. It's almost like a little morale boost.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the plane spotting community, when I started it was not like this at all. It was totally different. And I think, unfortunately, a majority of the group has gotten away from the idea of giving back, and it's more about how can I make X amount of money. So
yeah,
it's sad to see. I wish it would get back to what it is for us, and hey, get the photos, send it. Just be cool about it.
Yeah, and it's a learning experience. I mean, everyone starts somewhere.
Sure.
Um, and there is those, there is people that are like, oh, well, I paid for my equipment, I paid for this, I paid for that, now it's time for you to pay me so I could pay that off. uh and if that's your thing, good luck to you. If it works out, it works out. But sometimes you got to spend a little money to make a little money. So if it is to give someone a smile on their face, a little thank you for doing a great job, sending a
Sure.
photo to them. It doesn't cost you anything. You send them like what? You, aviation photographers, we're out there taking hundreds of pictures, and we sent them 2 photos, and they say, you know what? I like this photo. I don't have a print shop near me. Can I get this printed? And you send them something bigger, and you charge them for that print. There you go. You just made a little bit of money
Sure.
after you sent them a free something free. So and
Well, and
like Mark's saying down here, it's gone from people who love aviation to people who love attention on social media. Everybody wants to be an influencer.
well, and that's what I was just reading, and I totally agree with that. And it's I see a lot of people, um, starting these accounts, and they're trying to fly and be this influencer at the airlines and do X, Y, and Z. It's like, come on, I get it. I get the world that we live in, but if you look at my page, right, there's so many things I've taken photos of I haven't put out there. I haven't even scratched the surface with my page. I mean, I could go on and on, but social media is not it for me. So I like Mark said, people who love attention on social media, and some of them start comment wars, and it really makes the aviation group look really bad. In fact, that I believe was it you that posted it?
On the
Something about
story, yeah.
yeah. That's a shame. It's really a shame to see that. Um, you know, I think what this younger group and even the older, not older, but my age group misses is the fact that if it's not about the money, if you just do something out of goodwill and just because, it opens doors. I mean, I got a phone call. I'll never forget it. After that, doing that photography thing for Eric and his father, I got a phone call probably about a week or two later. And I didn't take money from them. They wanted to pay me. I didn't want it. And I get a phone call about 2 weeks later from another guy. And he happened to be passing through Palm Beach. And it was his retirement flight. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. It should be more about doing good over money. Unfortunately, I think we're getting away from that, and it's a shame to see.
Yeah. That unfortunately it's happening at airports, and like I had posted on the story. This post was from Precision Strike Studios. He was talking about MCAS Miramar Air Show and how there's a group of people disrespecting older plane spotters, telling they're. I won't even get into it. It's in my story. You could. There's probably a few more hours left. You could go in and check it out. But these people were rowdy. They were being disrespectful to other patrons at the air show, and they got escorted out by the Marines. So if you got to get escorted out by the Marines, you're doing something wrong. Hopefully that got kicked out of the show altogether. But it's really really bad.
It's a shame that it ruined that couple's experience. That's not what it should be.
Yeah, Ryan was just talking about how he did a digital album to the pilots, maintainers, and the people of the hangar next door, and then they shut down the aviation division. Which the response to it was more than any money they could have given him, and that's awesome, Ryan. I'm glad that you were able to give them a little something in return. It's for us. We maybe because we work at an airfield, and maybe we see it that way. Hopefully not. I think it's just we're the difference between those that just want. Um, I don't know. I don't know what the
money and attention.
money and
I really
attention.
think
Yeah.
it's how much do you really love it? And if you're asking for money for, for people to get your picture, I mean, come on. That to me shows you really don't love it. You're just doing it for the money and the notoriety. So
Yeah. I mean,
unfortunately,
it.
and like you said, I mean, if it comes down to printing out, whatever, that's fine. But to if someone asks you, hey, you mind snapping a photo or two of me? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to tell you that I am that guy, but I also have a web page. I also have prints for sale online.
Well, and that's different. I think that's a good thing to do, and I've been thinking about doing that. But I think there's a difference between having a web page dedicated to it and being like, hey, if you really want to, and if you feel so inclined,
Yeah.
buy a photo or two. If not, but it's a different thing to sit there and go, hey, I took this photo of your airplane or whatever. I want, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. If you want this picture, pay me. Yeah.
And I think that's all the difference.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%. That's 100% right. Aviation Delta asked, "What do you think about plane spotting in Birmingham?"
Oh man, Birmingham. I have a lot of fun memories from Birmingham. When I was doing my private training, we went out over there to do the 10 takeoffs and landings at Howard Airport at night. And at night is when all the KC-135s do their pattern work, and they tear up the pattern and have some fun. So we were playing chicken with these 135s. It was pretty awesome. Plane spotting wise, I don't think I've ever really spotted there. Like I mentioned in the group the other day, the last time I was up there for this training, I took a day off and I went over to Birmingham, and I had the opportunity to go check out how they dismantle all the airplanes and whatnot. And that was a really cool thing. I don't think a lot of people get to see that side of aviation.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is a neat thing. And so spotting wise, I couldn't tell you, but the behind the scenes stuff was really cool.
Yeah. Do you go to Alabama a lot for flight school training? Or you're saying you're doing it now for your multi, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I ended up going up there. That's where I went for private. I have family up there.
Okay.
And then after the whole ordeal, I took a little bit of time off, and lo and behold, they happened to get a multi-engine airplane, so it kind of fell into my lap, and I went up there, spent a few days, probably about a week, and just knocked it out.
I was gonna say that's a hell of a commute from Palm Beach to Birmingham just for flight training.
Yeah. No, actually, I did my instrument training. I had to go down to Tamiami, and that was a drive. That was not fun. I think it was like almost an hour, almost 2 hours each way.
Yeah.
No, wouldn't do it again. Wouldn't recommend commuting for flight school, but if you have to, I guess you do. But
yeah, I mean, you could get a few hours flying to Alabama. Stay overnight, then do some multi-engine hours, come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just rack up the time everywhere.
Let's see. Those were that. So, Ryan had asked Ryan Clackle. He was talking earlier. Are Hawker labs as bad as the memes make them out to be?
I couldn't tell you. I've never worked a Hawker at all. I will tell you, lab service on any airplane is awful.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's just as bad, if not worse, on a Hawker. So, yeah, I would say I know because I don't know what it's like, but if I had to do it, I probably wouldn't be happy.
Yeah. So you're at the ramp. Are you, doing the unload like baggage, or are you,
Yep.
out there doing air traffic control?
No, so we in Palm Beach it was different because it was a contractor. So we would have to bring the flight in. We'd have to offload. We'd have to go upstairs. We'd have to bring the bags and drop them at the claim. Pick up the new bags, come back. We'd have to go upstairs and clean the airplane.
Wow.
Go back downstairs, load the bags, and then send the flight out. And all of this happens for an A321, we have a ground time of an hour and 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything smaller than that is 55. So there's a lot going on in that short amount of time. At the main line, it's a little bit different. We don't have to worry about cleaning. We don't have to worry about lab service or potable water. Potable water we do, but lab service and cleaning, they have their own people for it.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, our biggest priority is just loading and offloading. Throughout the day, they assign us bag runners. So the plane will come in, we'll bring the plane in, we'll get those bags off. They get on that baggage cart, and someone is assigned to take those to baggage claim, and another person is assigned to bring us our bags so we can load. So it's an interesting process for us right now. Like I said, it's just getting those bags on, making sure the connections make their connections. And in Miami, there's a flight from Orlando to Miami on Delta. And that, believe it or not, which is interesting, a lot of those people come down here to fly on LATAM down to South America, which was interesting to me because why wouldn't, LATAM, I believe, goes to Orlando. So, I'm surprised they don't just take that. But
Miami is a destination spot for everyone.
Sure.
You gotta come to Miami, get some Cuban coffee, and then go to South America.
That's right. Yeah, no day's complete without Versailles. Someone told me that a lot of people will come here. They'll stop over for like a day or two, and then they'll continue on to Orlando, and then they'll go, or they'll just fly straight into Orlando, and then on the way back, if they don't have a flight that fits their times or whatever, they'll stop through here and just go about it that way. So that's interesting, and I always found that part of things to be interesting in the respect that it's like a non-rev.
Yeah.
Here you are. You could fly direct, but if it doesn't work out, you got to start getting creative with where we go. So
yeah, I thought it would have been for like the duty free. It's probably a little bigger here in Miami than it is in Orlando.
Yeah, I'm sure that probably plays a role in it too.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things I was told. So
yeah, Jack Walters says I'm listening while flying. Ripping the RNAV 14. Be safe, Jack.
Yeah, Jack. Come on. What are we doing? Focus on the approach. You need to get your rating.
Oh man, that's funny. I didn't even think he'd get service from being in there. It's surprising. We had an aircraft lost his radios. He was flying, in the west side of Miami Approach. He was coming down. I guess they put him inland. He lost his radios when he was talking to Miami Approach. He called me on the office phone at Miami Executive. And he's like, hey, I'm over here, over by the cement plant. I lost my radios and I need to get to, I need to land like, 9 right. I'm like, what? Are you in the plane right now? So he's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I need a supervisor, transferred him up to the tower and, he landed safely, but everything was over the phone.
That's insane.
So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. Even when we're on the ground, like North County's so secluded. Yeah, on the ground taxiing out and you're calling for a clearance, to me on my phone, like that's insane. There's poor guys having to answer that too.
Yeah.
They're trying to do stuff, but now right now the modification for the airspace is currently under review, so we'll see what happens. I was on part of the chair to help fix that up, and we'll see what comes out of it. But
to fix the airspace for
Palm Beach.
For Palm Beach approach, or for just that airport?
Just no, Palm Beach in general. They basically want to do what they did to Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
I don't think it's the best idea. I think there's good to it, and there's some bad, but we'll see. I finished my report, sent it in, so we'll see what they come back with. But usually once they submit an idea of what they want, that's kind of what they're going to get.
Yeah.
For the most part. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm actually on Sky Vector right now. I'm zooming into Palm Beach to see what the difference is between that and Foxtrot 45.
Yeah, so we're right on the outskirt of Palm Beach, and Palm Beach's argument is, well, we're getting too many TCAS alerts and TARAs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I can understand. But if you look at the approach plate, or just the arrival plate for Palm Beach, every arrival has you bottomed out at 4,000 feet over North County Airport. Just about. You're just a little bit south of North County.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience of working at the airport there and at the flight school and whatnot, they clear these guys for the approach when they could be abeam the airport, and here they are. Yeah, we got the runway in sight. Okay, you're clear for the approach, and now they're dropping down to 2,000 feet, 1,900, and they're shooting across. I've seen them as low as 1,700, and unfortunately, they think that adding this airspace will help them, but in reality, I mean, as you know, once you clear them for the approach, they don't have to maintain, that assigned altitude via the chart. So
you're talking about runway 14?
For 10 left.
10 left. I'm on AirNav now. I'm looking at the approach plates.
Yeah, so if you look at like the captain, I believe it's Sands and something like that. Sands is at 4,000. But it puts you just south of North County. And, they sat there and they told us, well, that's not our problem, and kind of was trying to imply that it's our fault, which I didn't really agree with, and that was in my final report as well to them. Part of it too is they want us to participate,
mm-hmm.
and
yeah, they
totally
want to get the feedback. Yeah,
and I get it. Well, they want us to participate in the air.
Gotcha.
Because of the non-participating aircraft and all these TARAs, and while that's great and all, I've been denied. They either won't answer you. And if they do answer you, they'll say, "Oh, we're too busy right now." In the wintertime, in the summertime, not so much. But when it gets busy here in the winter, they don't have time to talk to us, and they don't. I don't want to say they don't want to talk to us. They just don't have time.
You're saying flying into North County?
Yep. So because North County is the only airport that's non-controlled that has an ILS in the entire state of Florida.
Yeah.
So they'll be sending, there will be someone out on the arrival, or you got someone, overflying the field 1,500 feet, and, now you're getting these, TARs. But that was my suggestion in the beginning. Why don't you have a frequency dedicated to just GA traffic?
Mm.
Obviously it's a logistical issue, and it'd be something that you'd have to work out. But if you want us to participate, that's fine. But we need to figure out a better way.
Yeah.
They didn't like that. Actually, the previous air traffic control manager, he's no longer there. Nice guy, but when we told him, like, hey, we're calling, but you guys, aren't responding. Well, I don't think we do that. Okay. And then, you bring up the tracks of these guys crossing North County at 1,900 feet, 2,000 feet on the approach because, they got cleared for the visual. Oh, we don't do that. That doesn't happen. So it's one of those things. It's a give and take.
Yeah.
They got someone new in there, and he seems to be doing a little bit better in terms of taking the criticism and saying, okay, here's how we can fix it, and just trying to find a way. So.
Yeah, the ATM for Palm Beach is also a hurricane hunter.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's a hurricane hunter. I think he's still. I don't know if he still flies with them, but it might be like reserves. But
sure.
He worked at Miami Executive before, so he's working over there now.
Okay.
He's a good person to talk to. Hopefully, we get that. You guys get the resolve for this snowbird season, but I'm sure it's still going to take a little bit.
I think we will. Right now, I mean, there's not much Palm Beach can really do now. It's in the hands of the FAA, so we'll see what they do. But no, in my very limited interactions with him, I think it was like one email, if that. He seemed to be helpful and really seemed to be wanting to fix it. So
yeah. Well, good luck. Hopefully, it gets resolved. Mark asked, how many hours do you have so far, and what airframes have you flown?
Well, I'm pushing 400 right now. Let's see, the 172, the Piper, not the Archer. Well, I do have time in an Archer, TX. But the Piper Warrior, a 182, I have time in the Seneca 2, I have time in the Piper Comanche, which was what I just recently did my multi-training on. A Cherokee 6, an RV-10. I want to say that's it. I think that's it. I did have a little bit of time in a JetBlue A320 sim, so that was cool. But as you know, it's not actual flying time, so.
Can you use that as your like a sim time?
Yeah.
As a multi-engine sim?
Yeah, so it's logged as sim time. I guess I could log it as multi-engine, but I'm not going to do that. I'll just leave it as sim time.
Put some just jet engine time.
Yeah. So.
How was that? How was that A329 or A320 with JetBlue?
A320 was good. I enjoyed it. It was actually done through a FA guy. He has a program called ATOP.
Okay.
And it's a great program. You can go for a weekend and learn all about the Airbus, or you can go to American with him in Dallas and learn the 7.3. But because Orlando's right here, I took the 320. It was cool. It was cool to learn. The people at Blue were nice. So I would recommend it.
Yeah, that's cool. Have you had any helicopter experience at Miami?
No. No, I've ridden in helicopters as a passenger. I think that's about where it ends for me.
Yeah.
Recently, I did a helicopter tour over Orlando just to try it out, just for fun. On the way there, where doors are off, so you're just doing the. I'm okay. I think that's enough helicopter time for me.
I did see on your page you have some, aircraft from above, landing, touching down on the runway. Is that from a helicopter or is that from a fixed wing?
Yeah, so that's from the helicopter. I think it's a Spirit one. I'm not sure. Anyway, but yeah, so I do have one photo on there somewhere deep in there of a few JetBlue airplanes parked at Palm Beach, and while we were overflying Palm Beach, this was during my instrument training. While we were overflying Palm Beach, I had a really cool instructor, and he was like, "Yeah, well, why don't we just get in a slow flight?" So over the top of the field at like 2,000 feet, and yep, yeah, that one's from a helicopter.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to do this. Showcase some of your photos while we're talking here. I'm sure people don't want to see my face the whole time.
So he was like, "Yeah, let's get in a slow flight, whatever." And so I get into a slow flight, and he's like, "All right, I got the airplane, and here I am with my camera dangling it out the window, just getting shots of it." So that was a cool experience. There's a lot of fun stories, fun memories that I have, but would take way too much time. So
yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I love hearing the different stories from people that work on the ramp, people that do in air traffic. I think it's great that we keep this community alive, doing good. Oh, here's a cool one from JetBlue.
Yep, that's the one that I was overflying the airport in slow flight.
That's cool. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to jump on the podcast and share your stories, your insight, advice, and keep doing great things.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Best of luck in your multi-engine check ride.
Thank you. Yes, and if there's any advice or any words of wisdom people look for, my page is on there, and I'd be glad to come back and chat with you about whatever that may be. So, but I appreciate the opportunity to get to put that out there with the community here.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for joining again. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Spotters podcast. We'll be back next month. We won't be back the first week because I'll be on vacation, but I'll be back November 12th for the next episode. All right, Matt, what's next after your multi-engine?
Probably trying to fly a Part 91 or a 135 gig with either a charter company or flying cargo. So we'll see what happens here.
Awesome. Good luck. Good luck with that. And we'll tune in again. We'll check in with you and see how that check ride goes, and hopefully everything goes well. You have a good night, and we'll see you again on the next show.
All right. We'll see you then. Take care.
All right. See you, Matt.
All right.